And so, in terms of getting to know about how humans behave, I mean, I think it makes more sense in the present time if we get to know like how we are doing and how we are expected to do. But all this information about how humans used to live maybe 100,000 years ago, 300,000 years ago, why does it matter? Like, is it out of curiosity or does it have any practical use as well?
I mean, I think looking at our hominin line, our hominin ancestors, this is really very important for understanding. I mean, look at health issues, for example, right? In Pakistan, you have a massive problem with type 2 diabetes. We have problems of obesity around the world. So if we look at our Paleolithic ancestors, right, this is from 3.3 million years ago to about 12,000 years ago, what we evolved to eat, our diets, were very different from the diets we eat now. And biology doesn't catch up in 10,000, 12,000 years. So when we had that kind of first epidemiological transition around 10, 12,000 years ago, from Paleolithic to Neolithic, we went from a diet where we were eating 45 to 50 nutrients, right? 45 to nutrients. We went from a diet where, our food, we evolved in places where we had a lot of different edible varieties of food, but not that much density in one place. So we would eat a lot of different things. And then sedentary agriculture happens. 10 to 12,000 years ago, we start to cultivate more intensively wheat, maize, rice, right? These are really useful crops. But we reduced the diversity of our diets. But our bodies didn't adapt to that. That's simply we changed. So we start to have also different activity patterns. Paleolithic humans, Paleolithic hominins would have spent a great deal of time moving around, foraging. Sedentary farmers, sedentary agriculturalists don't need to do that. There's a lot more repetitive tasks. So we start to have, for the first time in human history, osteoarthritis. Right? We start to have different diseases. Today, we can see this propensity towards obesity. We can link that to past famines. So if you look at my ancestors come from Ireland, right? And my family's all nice, chubby, fatty people, right? It's not our fault. The problem is the women who lived through that Irish potato famine in the 1840s, if they were pregnant at the time that they experienced that famine, that in an epigenetic way, which is turning on or off genes, it's not changing the underlying gene, but it's turning on or off the genes, it actually made the offspring more likely to not be satiated, right? So I eat food and I'm not satiated. I'm like a Labrador, right? I can keep eating, because the genes that should tell me I'm full, they're turned off. They're turned off because my ancestor experienced a famine. And so what did my body learn? What did my female line, passed on through the female line, what did they learn? They learned, stuff that food down your gullet while you can, because a famine might be coming. It's not conscious, but it is part of that kind of legacy. It's a genetic legacy through an epigenetic transmission. Now, of course, this is all, someone might come along and argue with me and say, this is nonsense. But I think the evidence is fairly strong that the trauma of our ancestors is passed on to us either through a direct adaptation, through selective pressure, or through an epigenetic response to some trauma. And so now the incidence of obesity, of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, our response to stress, right? Think about our Paleolithic ancestors having to sleep in a fairly light way because of predators around. Well, now, so much of the way we live, we're on kind of full-time stress, but there's no life or death stress there. There's no life or death threat. But we have the same stress levels. And so that's not good for our bodies either. So many of the diseases that we are experiencing now, the kind of non-infectious diseases, are these chronic diseases, are probably directly a consequence of the mismatch between our biology and our environment. So that's one way where it actually has a direct application and it matters.